Sarah J. Maas has millions of readers who literally go to war over her fictional men, and I figured out the writing formula that creates that obsession. I'm Lucas Alpay, and I've been writing fantasy for 17 years, which means I've had plenty of time to figure out what I was doing wrong. After publishing around 12 books and watching Maas dominate the entire romantasy genre, I spent weeks dissecting her writing like a madman on crack. What I found is 5 specific techniques that separate her from literally every other fantasy author on the planet. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to make your own readers this obsessed. Fair warning though, once you see these patterns, you can't unsee them. Technique number 1, the accessibility trap. See, we think good writing means sounding smart, complex sentences, fancy vocabulary, showing off your English degree. Maas does the complete opposite. Listen to this line from A Court of Thorns and Roses.
I was not a pet, not a doll, not an animal. I was a survivor.
4 words, 7 words, 6 words, 5 words, that's it. But here's the trap. While you're cruising through these simple sentences, she's actually programming your brain. Notice how each sentence gets shorter? That creates what psychologists call cognitive acceleration. Your brain literally speeds up as you read. It's like going downhill on a bike. Most fantasy authors front-load their prose with world-building exposition, the ornate crystalline formations of the Winter Court's palace. And we've already lost half of our readers. Maas front loads with emotion. She makes you feel before she makes you think. Instead of that Crystal Palace nonsense, she writes, the palace was beautiful and cold, just like its master. Same information, triple the impact. Because simple doesn't mean stupid, it means strategic. Stanford researchers found that readers process simple emotional statements 73% faster than complex ones. Maas figured this out while the rest of us were still trying to sound like Tolkien's pretentious cousin. But here's her secret weapon: strategic complexity spikes. She'll give you 5 simple sentences, lull your brain to sleep, then bam! One gorgeous complex line that hits like poetry.
I was fire, and I was ice, and wrath, and sorrow, and I was eternal.
This creates what I call cognitive whiplash. But that's nothing compared to what she does to her characters. Technique 2, the character destruction engine. And this one's probably her most ruthless trick. Most authors give their characters flaws like, oh, she's clumsy, or he has trust issues. Maas gives her characters psychological warfare. Every single protagonist starts fundamentally shattered. Feyre has PTSD, Aelin has survivor's guilt, Nesta has self-destructive rage. But here's where it gets brilliant. She doesn't heal them, she makes their trauma into their superpower. Feyre's PTSD becomes hypervigilance that saves lives. Aelin's guilt becomes unstoppable determination. Nesta's rage becomes literal magical fire. This actually mirrors real psychological research on post-traumatic growth. But leave it to a fantasy author to weaponize therapy. UCLA study shows that readers who connect with traumatized characters who overcome adversity report increased resilience in their own lives. Maas isn't just entertaining, she's literally healing people through fiction. But here's the secret most of us miss completely. The destruction has to be specific. Don't write, she had a difficult childhood. Write, she learned to count her father's footsteps on the stairs. Heavy meant angry. Light meant drunk. Both meant hide. Specific trauma creates specific empathy. Generic pain, generic sympathy. Maas makes you feel like you're living inside her characters' minds. And then comes the rebuilding phase. But she does it in layers, like an emotional onion that makes you cry. Phase 1, admit you're broken. Phase 2, try to fix yourself. Phase 3, accept help. Phase 4, help others. Phase 5, transcend your original limitation. 5 separate emotional payoffs. Most of us rush to the end. Maas makes you earn every single breakthrough. But even perfectly broken characters won't keep readers up until 4 a.m. For that, you need technique number 3. The emotional escalator. This is why people binge read her books until their eyes bleed. Most authors think plot progression looks like this: steady upward climb toward a climax. Maas knows it actually looks like this: A series of emotional peaks and valleys that get progressively higher, like the world's most addictive roller coaster. She's using what neuroscientists call intermittent variable reinforcement. Same principle that makes slot machines addictive, but she layers it with emotional variety. Look at Throne of Glass. Book 1, it's achievement emotion. Book number 2, romantic emotion. Book 3, existential crisis emotion. Book 4, protective emotion. Book 5, justice emotion. Book 6, full heroic mode. Each type triggers different brain chemicals. Achievement releases dopamine. Romance releases oxytocin. By cycling through emotions, she keeps your brain chemistry constantly shifting. But here's her advanced technique: emotional anchoring. She associates specific phrases with peak emotional moments. To whatever end. Fireheart, you bow to no one. When she uses these later, instant emotional flashback. It's classical conditioning through fiction. Princeton researchers found that readers' brains literally sync with characters' emotional states. When Aileen feels rage, your amygdala lights up. When Rhysand feels love, your attachment system goes haywire. Maas has mastered emotional pacing like a conductor. High emotion, 2 to 3 pages max. Recovery, 5 to 7 pages. Building tension, 10 to 15 pages. Emotional explosion, 1 to 2 pages. It's perfect emotional breathing. Intense enough to feel everything, spaced enough to not get overwhelmed. But if you think emotional manipulation is ruthless, wait until you see what she does with romance. Technique 4, the romance torture chamber. And yes, that's exactly what it sounds like. Remember the marshmallow experiment? Kids who could wait got better life outcomes. Maas makes readers wait for the romantic marshmallow, and readers, they love her for it. But she doesn't just delay the romance. She actively tortures you with it using 5 diabolical techniques. Technique number 1 is the proximity torture. You force characters into close spaces while denying emotional connection. Close enough to touch, too far to have. Technique number 2 is the vulnerability interrupted. This is when a character starts opening up, gets interrupted at the crucial moment. Happens exactly 7 times in a court of mist and fury. I counted. Technique number 3 is the false choice. 2 love interests, one's obviously wrong, character chooses them anyway, readers literally scream at the pages. Technique number 4, the miscommunication multiplication. In this technique, characters assume the worst, but their assumptions make sense given their trauma. You understand why they're wrong, but you can't really blame them. Technique number 5 is life or death separation. Right when they finally connect, bam, war, death, magic, politics, anything to make the reunion impossible. This works because of frustration attraction theory. Obstacles increase desire, but Maas adds emotional logic to every obstacle. Each almost moment releases dopamine. Each interruption creates mini withdrawal. By payoff time, readers are neurochemically addicted. But here's what separates Maas from cheap romance. She makes the sexual tension emotionally meaningful. The surface level, he's hot, she wants him. Mass level, she's never been seen as an equal. He's the first person to challenge her mind while respecting her power. Physical attraction grows from emotional compatibility. When they finally get together, it's not just satisfying, it's validation of their entire character growth. But even perfect romance won't create the obsessive fanbase Maas has. For that, you need her most advanced technique. Technique number 5 is the world building time bomb. This separates good fantasy authors from legends. Most fantasy authors world build like icebergs. Everything's visible above water. Maas world builds like a minefield. Everything buried until it explodes in perfect sequence. She plants tiny details in Book 1 that become massive plot points in Book 5. A throwaway mention of word keys, key to saving the world. Casual references to the cauldron, source of all magic. But here's her advanced technique. Layered revelation with escalating stakes. Layer 1. Who is this character? Layer 2. What's this magic about? Layer 3. what happened historically. Layer 4, who are these cosmic enemies? Layer 5, how do all the series connect? Each layer solved increases investment in the next. By layer 5, readers aren't just hooked, they're studying her books like religious texts. She also uses retroactive enhancement. New information makes you reinterpret everything. When you learn Selena is Queen Aelin, every scene from book 1 gains new meaning. Her arrogance wasn't personality. It was suppressed royal training. Average fantasy book generates 50 online discussions per 10,000 readers. Maas generates 847. That's 17 times more engagement. But the real genius? Her multiverse integration. Characters from Throne of Glass show up in Crescent City. She's created a Marvel-level universe, but with romance and feelings. This isn't just good storytelling, it's brilliant business. Every new book brings readers to every other book. One series becomes a gateway drug to 3 others. Here's the formula. Plant mysteries, delay revelations, connect everything, and then reward obsessive attention. Equals to readers becoming detectives instead of consumers. But here's what most writers completely miss. These techniques only work because Maas understands reader psychology at a neurological level. MIT found that reading fiction activates the same brain regions as real experience. When Feyre feels trapped, readers' stress hormones actually increase. Maas combines 5 psychological triggers. First is the identification through trauma. Second, anticipation through delayed rewards. Third, transportation through simple prose. Fourth, escalation through rising stakes. Fifth, resolution through earned payoffs. Readers report her books help them through depression, abuse, personal trauma. She's not just entertaining, she's proving emotional therapy through fiction. The result? 12 million books sold. Netflix deals, international bestsellers, a fan base that pre-orders books years in advance. That's the power of understanding reader psychology instead of just following writing rules. So there's your complete Sarah J. Maas formula. Accessibility trapped, character destruction engine, emotional escalator, romance torture chamber, and world building time bombs. All built on deep psychological principles. But here's what separates successful authors from wannabes. You can't half-ass these techniques. You can't kind of delay romance or sort of destroy characters. Maas goes all in on every single one. Try this. Pick your current work and apply layered revelation. Take one piece of information, hide it across 5 clues in 5 chapters. Make each clue raise the stakes. If you want to master the psychology behind best-selling fiction, hit subscribe. I break down what makes readers obsessed so you can apply it to your own stories, your own writing. I've got more breakdowns coming. Tell me your favorite author to analyze next in the comments. And hey, if you survived this deep dive into romantic torture chambers, you're definitely my kind of writer. I'll see you in the next one.